Hello, welcome back. Good afternoon. Ben Leo here in for Martin Daubney on GB News. Now, let's talk Labour, shall we? I know you like discussing that a lot because the Deputy Prime Minister has dismissed rumours that Labour plans to end Margaret Thatcher's Right to Buy scheme. Angela Rayner now says that people have the right to buy the home they live in after she previously used the scheme herself to buy her council house in Stockport. Well, let's get the opinion of Sally Mitchell, who is a mortgage advisor and broker. Good afternoon to you, Sally. Thanks for joining me. What do you make of this? Is this the reason Keir Starmer took down Margaret Thatcher's portrait in Downing Street, do you think? Just eliminating any sense of Maggie?
Yeah, can you imagine Angela Rayner's face when this was sort of broached to her, that this is the avenue we're talking about going down? Poisoned chalice or what? It's a really difficult conversation to have, actually, also debate to have, because there are so many parts to this. Yes, she is a lady who has benefited from this scheme. And I think if we go back to the basic premise that we hold dear in this country, that everybody, if they can, should be able to own their own property, then it should be the same for everyone. And Right to Buy has certainly made that dream come true for very many people. I believe the problem is that, and has been for many, many years, going way back to many different governments, that we have never replaced those buildings, those houses that have disappeared from the social housing register, which means that we are now, as they say, in a housing crisis, and very, very difficult to get those stocks replenished. I know they've said 1.5 million homes, but I haven't heard the real plan to do that yet. They're just, I suppose, looking at all sorts of avenues, but the right to buy is going to upset a lot of people if it's changed.
Well, with regards to the 1.5 million homes, they're well behind already. They should have been a bit, I can't remember the number. I think it's maybe dozens per day, but they're not at this point keeping up with it. So Right to Buy has resulted in the loss of around 24,000 homes. What would it do to the market if indeed Labour did scrap Right to Buy? Would it have any effect on pricing, for example? Would it make it easier for younger people to get onto the housing ladder?
I'm not sure. I think there needs to be some very specific plans and schemes for first-time buyers to get onto the ladder. I mean, back in the day when social housing was first mooted, first put into place, it was for working people who couldn't necessarily afford to get their own property, but for working people. And it now seems that social housing is really for the most disadvantaged people in the country, in society. And I think it's shifted a bit. So they need to be looked after. They really do need to have accommodation, not temporary accommodation, not hotels or hostels, but a home that they can feel they are safe and secure in. The people I see who are looking to get onto the ladder are in a slightly different situation, and they need help with deposits, and they also need help if they're coming out of the private rented sector, because that's taking their ability, the rents that are out there, taking their ability away to actually save for a deposit, and you do need a very, very good deposit these days.
Well, talking about the private rented sector, of course, Labour mooted, and I think they will do it. They'll be hiking up capital gains tax in October to reflect income rates, so potentially up to 45% for landlords if they're selling their homes and making a profit. 45% of that going to the government. I think the top rate now is 20%. What will that do to rents? Surely landlords will just hike rents up and just pass on the costs to the tenants.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that happening with the mortgage rates going up. Private landlords cannot afford to keep their rents the same. It just doesn't make commercial sense. And interestingly, I think in 21-22, they discovered that 40% of the social housing that has been purchased under Right to Buy is actually now in private landlords' hands.
Oh, really? So what was the figure? Say that again.
40%. In 21-22. Yeah, no, that's an awful lot. So my question would be, I think Right to Buy needs to be looked at, but it doesn't seem, if 40% are going into the private sector, private rented sector, that's not the idea of Right to Buy.
Yeah,
really.
No, yeah, counterintuitive.
Yeah, exactly. But let's not forget, the more properties that go into the private sector, private rented sector for rent, that actually floods the market and brings the prices down. So in a way, it's quite good news for people who are looking to rent.
OK, Sally Mitchell, you're a mortgage advisor and broker. Thank you very much. Labour, of course, today said that they're not doing that. They're not scrapping right to buy, but it all remains to be seen, doesn't it, in the October budget.